You're listening to Booth Talk from the After Movie Diner, and on this episode we're exceptionally happy to be talking to the star of Adventures in Babysitting, Hiding Out, Cousins, Don't Tell Mum the Babysitter's Dead, The Comeback Kids, Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and of course the 1991 Die Hard in a Private School Teens Against Terrorists action classic Toy Soldiers. In fact, most of the interview is just all about Toy Soldiers. I'm such a huge fan of Toy Soldiers that to get to speak to the one and only Keith Coogan was an incredible delight. So I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. And just to let you know, this is one of the interviews that we're doing that pair very nicely with our father podcast, mother podcast. I know people say like sister show, but the After Movie Diner podcast, which came first before Booth Talk. But yes, the After Movie Diner podcast will be covering Toy Soldiers this week. So once you've listened to this interview, head over and listen to us talk about Toy Soldiers. Or if you've already listened to us talking about Toy Soldiers, hello and welcome to the interview. That's right. Anyway, without further of my rambling, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, share, retweet, like, comment, tell your friends about Booth Talk from the After Movie Diner. And here is our interview with the one, the only, and the fantastically friendly Keith Coogan, star of Toy Soldiers.
Oh, John, it's lovely. Is that how you go by, John?
I go by John, yes.
Wonderful. Great to speak with you. Happy good afternoon.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I think we can still say Happy New Year. I know it's the 8th, but I think we can probably still say that and get away with it.
We totally can. My birthday's in a week on January 13th, and I'm far removed from really almost any holidays. And I have friends that are Christmas or near Christmas and New Year's. One of my best friends is January 1st. And so I'm very happy. It's at least 2 weeks, it's like 2 weeks after New Year's. So I get to celebrate separately. So Happy New Year to you as well.
Yeah, indeed. And happy birthday for next week, sir. So I hope you have a fantastic time. First of all, thanks ever so much for doing this. Seriously, I've been a fan of Toy Soldiers and yourself for so long now. It's a real pleasure to get to talk to you. It really is, honestly.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you. I love Toy Soldiers, by the way. Totally one of my favorites.
It's so good. I rewatched it. My wife and I rewatched it again recently. I think I end up watching it at least every year or at least every other year. And it was certainly one that when I bonded with my movie friends at university some years ago now, but we watched it and loved it as well. The acting's great across the entire cast. It's just got a really great structure to it. I love the soundtrack. I'm a sucker for those little like militaristic kind of brassy melodic kind of tunes. I think funny enough, I was talking to, believe it or not, Steve Guttenberg this morning, and I don't normally have days that are bookended by talking to two people from some of my favorite movies.
We love the Goot. Me and my wife got to meet Gutenberg about a year ago. Nice. We love the Goot.
The Goot's great. But both the Police Academy and this movie have that kind of soundtrack, you know what I mean? That kind of little brassy soundtrack.
Oh, I think Aaron Horner did the Police Academy, didn't he?
Oh, did he do both? Did I just inadvertently stumble into that? So you're right. Robert Falk, who did or Folk, yes. I don't know how he says his name. He did Toy Soldiers, and you're right. He did Police Academy. He did Police Academy as well. So
he did. That's fantastic.
Okay, so how about that then? That I'm bookending my day with you and Gutenberg, and there is a Police Academy Toy Soldiers connection. Who knew? That's great.
That's amazing. And the Foley artist, there's a Foley artist credited on Toy Soldiers.
Okay.
I think it says additional Foley or Foley. He is now the top Foley artist at Sony. Sony is, of course, TriStar.
Yes.
And I believe Toy Soldiers is available for free on Crackle for those that want to go visit a 90s R-rated action totally fun piece. I think it's so fun.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely fantastic, and both the younger cast in it and the adult cast really sell it, and really sell the various different ensembles, because there's sort of two ensembles playing against each other in a way. There's the young kids and then or teenagers, and then the adult ensemble. Now, obviously, the adult ensemble are kind of separated a little bit. Ali Ermey, Denham Elliott, Louis Gossett Jr. and
yes,
Mason Adams.
All of the Arlie Ermey, Mason Adams, Lou Gossett Jr., Andrew Devoff,
so good,
Campion.
Yeah,
they all pulled in they were framing the kid's story, obviously.
You
had to buy it. You had to buy it. And I know the director, Dan Petrie Jr., is a huge fan of Tom Clancy and like Hunt for Red October.
Right.
And, Red Storm Rising had come out. So we wanted to keep the military. They went to the Pentagon and they got approval to use real equipment and real troops for the storming of the school at the end. It had that authenticity. That the kid's story, we were innocent and having fun, and then these adults come in. That was the thing. Lou, I think, led the charge on giving the same performance, whether it was tongue-in-cheek, whether, it's fun. It's just meant to be fun.
Yeah.
And he, you take it seriously, but it's a popcorn movie. You don't have to go method actor on it or anything. Also, they didn't pull back on the action or the blood or, blowing people's brains out. Or
right.
I love that it is a hard R-rated movie.
Yes. No, I do. I genuinely think it's awesome, because I think that we're looking at I actually had a question further on down, but part of the fun of these 80s and 90s teen movies were that they were dangerous. They had violence, they had dark or even sexual subject matter. Even if you look at stuff like, obviously Sean and Will come from the Goonies and Stand By Me. Both of those have kind of like a darkish subject matter, even though they're, even younger in those movies. And then this one, like you say, had the violence and had some gore in it, and even has that, I know it's only audible, but a sex scene at the beginning,
Sure. I mean, while we were filming it, we did call it Dead Poets Society meets Die Hard.
Right.
Kids prep school gets taken over by terrorists, and we all loved Die Hard. That is the model. That's that score, the musical score, the great night scenes where the school's all lit up and the spotlights are going. It feels that big action adventure story, but with that light. Dan Petrie Jr. wrote Beverly Hills Cop and Turner and Hooch, so he can do the action, but then also put in humor in there.
Yeah.
And I was grateful to have one of the comic, because I come from the babysitting background, and I was stoked to be able to sit at the table with all the big boys, the drama actors, because Billy Tepper's role was dramatic, and he had to cry and get beaten on the back, and it was just very very dramatic. And I was very grateful to have a nice, light and fluffy part. Within, Snuffy was very rebellious and would spit at the guards, but behind their back. He'd be the first to raise his hands and surrender. They point guns at him, and of course,
right.
Say how ridiculous the whole plan is. And he's just, just like me, Snuffy is just very glad to be a part of the plan and the adventure.
So when they were
he's happy to be there.
Yeah, totally. And obviously, I think you need each of the different types of characters to make a successful and satisfying group of friends that you portray so well in the movie. And I was going to ask, was it always intended that you sort of, each of you auditioned for specific parts, so you went in for like the comedy role, or did you all audition and then they kind of put you in those parts? Like, how did that process go?
From my experience, it was very specific, and I want to say I think Sean Astin, very specifically, is going up for Billy Tepper.
Yeah.
Will Wheaton is going up for Joey Trotta. I'm going up for Snuffy. Dozens and dozens and other kids in town. I say kids because we were all, 18, 19, 20 at the time.
Yeah.
Said that they, hundreds of young actors said they'd auditioned for it. And so I was grateful to get in early. Me and Lou Gossett had been booked. And then I got to turn around and sit behind the casting table with the casting director and the director and read the off-scene lines for all of the other auditions. And that included Sean for Billy Tepper. And I was like, bring it. And he sure did. He brought it right in the room. It was also horrifying to sit behind because there'd be an actor that comes up and, maybe they weren't too happy with what they saw and they'd leave the room and you'd see them take their picture and resume and toss it in the trash.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, is that what happens when you leave the room? I was horrified. I never wanted to see. I've never done it since. I've never sat in casting since.
No.
But I love being able to see that process and had a lot of fun. They wanted us to spend a night in the school. We did a week of rehearsal before filming.
Nice. Okay.
Just a small conference room where we did all the dramatic scenes with the kids trapped in the room. Just block it out and keep running it over and over. So when we're filming it, we're kind of could just do it really quickly without a lot of preparation.
Yeah.
So we did the preparation before filming at the Days Inn, just outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. And, Sean Astin cried every time you rehearse. It really helped us kind of move forward with it and bond us. Oh, and so they wanted us to go so they ambush and go, hey, you're going to go spend the night at the school. And I go, you say what now? They go, yeah, under the school rules, you can spend the night, like roomied up. And I'm like, nah. They go, excuse me? They go, yeah, it's to build character and everything. And I go, nah, I don't need to spend the night in a school. This is a movie with helicopters and guns and explosions. I don't like any surprises or hey, you have to go do that. And according to SAG rules, I get a 5-star hotel. So I know the best in town is the Days Inn. I'll be very comfortable watching HBO tonight. Thank you very much. Graciously, I'm not going to go do that. Thank you. So the other 4 main kids did. And they have adventures of what happened. They snuck out and did stuff at the school. I happily stayed in and watched cable. But I told the director, I don't think it's going to make my part any less. He's also more likely to chicken out and not want to go on something. And maybe he gets, he's not quite as cool in the eyes of the other 4 guys who are willing to take action.
Right.
So I do like to do a little stuff in character, but that was also one of the things they did. And then the bad guys got all rough. Not rough, but they tried to scare us. Our hotel was about 40 minutes from the school location. And one by one after filming, instead of taking the crew van back to the hotel, the bad guys, the terrorists, would say, hey, we'll give you a lift. Forget the van. We'll just give you a lift in our car. Like a Monte Carlo SS, black. Right. And they're all dressed in their terrorist outfits. And you're like, okay, sure. So one by one they did, and apparently the cast members were freaking out. They're like, this is, stop. This is, just drop me off or whatever. And they got scared. Me, I hit the deck, on my hands and knees, blubbering, crying, tears running down my face. Please don't kill me. And when they threatened me, because they took us behind the school and said, get out of the car. And I turned into a blubbering mess playing along. Yeah. And Andrew Devoff goes, get up. He goes, Keith, get up. And he broke character. And I go, okay. And he goes, we just wanted to know if you would play, be willing to play ball. And I'm like, absolutely, anytime. I'm scared to death of you guys. And so they let off on me and were absolutely sweet. And to this day, we're really good friends with Andrew Devoff. We love Andy, as we call him.
Oh, nice. That's fantastic. So did you know any of the ensemble before working with them in Toy Soldiers? I mean, obviously you were all contemporaries, but had your paths crossed before?
Will and Sean, I knew very well.
Yeah. Just from the circuit, basically, kind of auditions.
Sure.
Yeah.
We had all auditioned. Me and Will had auditioned for Christmas Story. I'd auditioned for Star Trek. He'd auditioned for this or that. I'd auditioned for Stand By Me even. And of course, Sean and I go back to Adam's Family and his father and my grandfather working together as Gomez and Professor.
Yeah.
And so I knew him since childhood, and that was old home. Me and Sean used to make short films in our teens. He went to Crossroads School in Santa Monica. I went to Santa Monica High School, the public school, and he had all this great video equipment, editing equipment. So me and Sean and Mackenzie Astin, my best friend Gabe Jarrett, Mitch from Real Genius, Jake Busey, we would all futz around with the video equipment.
Oh, wow. There's some Blu-ray extras that you can one day release, I'm sure. If any of you still have them.
Easy comfort and trust, because you know that they're professional, they're seasoned. you can absolutely trust them. And so we just had a blast. And we were kids again. You know, I'd never really gone to college. I started working when I was very, very young, but then also I graduated high school at 16 and worked as an adult since, like Adventures in Babysitting. I was alone in Toronto shooting that and turned 17 on the set. So it was fun to be a kid again and to kind of, you know, live that, I'm in school, because I never really had that experience.
So the three of you then, sort of Sean, Will, and yourself, I've got to imagine that especially at this time, you'd all had, like I say, kind of pivotal successes under your belt. You all found yourself on this set. I'm sure there was conversations, but were you discussing at that time about how you guys were all handling sort of fame or Hollywood or recognition or whatever you call it, and maybe discussing plans for the future and things?
Sure, we just talked about Will and Sean's incredible success and my luck to be in a few babysitting movies. I mean, what do? You kind of not talk about it. Right. Because, you know, I think they're phenomenally. I know that we all love T.E. and George Perez and T.E. Russell for Hank Giles and Ricardo. Their characters were awesome. I think I was roommates with Hank. You know, rule number one in a prep school is you wait till your roommate falls asleep before you... Never mind.
Yeah, no, I know.
Did you know that the voice of the sex phone operator is the wife of the director of Karate Kid and Rocky?
Oh, really? Oh, Tracy Brooks Swope?
I believe so, and she did it live in a production van outside of the real boiler room. We were using a boiler room that was above ground, but we made it look like it was below ground. Yeah, and it was a real building on the school. And for 5 days, while we shot that sequence, 3 or 4 or 5 days, we shot all the basement stuff together. So it included the stuff at the end of the movie. Right. She sat in that van and, you know, played with us and improvised, and it's a lot of great. She's one of the only female. This regrettably, and this is why I think a new version of Toy Soldiers should be our daughters in school with a female headmistress. Is because it's not a very diverse movie. It's a boys' escapist fantasy, and it doesn't have any. There were female roles in the book that it was that was based off of, but they were excised because it felt like they were shoehorned in when you're trying to make a 90-minute action picture. And I regret that. I think that when they redo it, they should make it our daughters. The school gets overtaken, but our daughters, we don't know it. So we go into rush and save them, and we immediately get kidnapped, taken hostage. But our daughters had escaped into the woods, and they're living like Rambo, taking pot shots at the terrorists. So then they realize they have to come in and rescue their own dads. And Will Wheaton will not be reprising his role as Joey Trotta, but his father did have a twin, another son, Jimmy Trotta, twin brother to Joey. And he will come. He's trying to avenge his brother's death. Joey was ashamed by the whole mafia thing. Yes. Jimmy embraced the mafia, so Joey didn't talk about him in Toy Soldiers. But we got to bring Will back. Sean's back. Everybody, George, T.E., and we're going to be victims and hostages. So
we were going back and forth about this on Twitter, myself and you, and I love the idea of Will having a twin brother who, you know, got embroiled in the mafia thing and therefore, you know, was distant from Joey's upbringing or whatever, because he was far more into the life of crime. But now in the sequel, is obviously trying to get out of the life of crime and uses this situation with his daughter and the school and everything.
I think this is brilliant that he leans into it, and he's always leaned into it. He is so embroiled in the mafia, he's like got hitmen on call. Yeah. That they go, let's call Jimmy. And they're like, what, really? Well, his daughter's, you know, kidnapped. So his niece, Joey's daughter. Yeah. So Jimmy's niece is kidnapped. So they go to him, and because Jerry Orbach, I will spill some tea. Jerry Orbach is uncredited in Toy Soldiers. He didn't understand or didn't agree with the tone or the comedy tone or the fact that it's a little tongue in cheek involving the mafia.
Okay.
In Toy Soldiers.
Yeah.
He didn't, and he took his name off of it. And I don't know whatever reason, but I love his performance in it. I think it's great. That's exactly what you need. This is what you need from a mafia boss whose son is kidnapped. What kind of a kid gets himself, accident killed with a machine gun? I love that line.
Yeah. It feels like he's playing it seriously. I feel like most of the movie is played seriously. I don't think anyone's playing it goofy. I think the kids have their...
I think Jerry might have been upset that he missed some opportunities had he known about how thrilling and kind of fun and, it's just throw popcorn at the screen. He might have given a broader performance or hammed it up more.
Huh.
He did. He took it absolutely deadly serious, and maybe that's why I'm taking a guess as an actor. For me, all I did was try to steal the scene. Anytime to get Will, to get Sean, years of their success and I had some success, but come on. So I just tried to steal the movie from them. That was my whole goal. It was great because it worked as a friendship level, and it read on screen as I just annoy them all the time. It was great.
And I know you brought up them earlier. I was going to ask about George Perez T. Russell and also Sean Phelan, who obviously plays Derek in the film. This was very early in their respective careers comparatively to the three of you. What was the dynamic there like? You all seem to have great chemistry, and was that born out of those like early rehearsals, or did you know each other, or where did that come from?
Oh, early rehearsals and the van rides, the 40 minutes van rides to set and back. That's how Sean got his name, his character name. I think he's Derek in the film, but he spilled yogurt on himself opening a Yoplait or something, and it popped all over him in the van on the way to set. He got it all over his shirt, and he kept trying to get our attention. Hey guys, I got yogurt all over my yogurt. Look at me. We're like, Sean, if you mention the yogurt on you one more time, we're going to call you Yogurt from now on, including
like
on screen.
The movie. Yeah.
And he said it one more time, and from that day forward, we started calling him Yogurt. And it went into the script, and they changed his credit and changed his name. Dan was always good. He sees something going on. He goes, I'm just going to turn the camera on and film it.
Yeah. That's great. I didn't know that's where that came from. So yeah, obviously on IMDb he's just listed as Derek, but yeah, I forget in the movie he's called Yoga the whole time. And outside of obviously Devoff trying to scare the pants off you guys, what was it like working with, like I said, the adults so obviously Louis Gossett Jr. works closest with you guys, but I mean Denham Elliott, obviously a fellow Englishman like myself, or fellow British guy. I don't know whether he's necessarily exactly English, but British certainly. And
he's been in enough Merchant Ivory claptrap to qualify as full UK. He
British. Might be Irish actually. I don't know his lineage, but
fantastic! Yes.
You have to walk. You have to walk carefully with the whole British English thing, because if you call someone English, they can get offended.
There's a difference between the United Kingdom. There's a difference between Britain. There's a difference between England, and I understand the difference. I couldn't name the exact differences, but I do know there is a huge difference. That's why I don't typically say I'm from America. Are we talking North, Central, South? Where? Are you from Canada? Where are you from? So yes, the fractured states of America is where I'm
and
from.
the fractured states of England and Europe right now as well. So don't even
But I always try to stay out of politics because I'm just an actor. I love to just do movies, and there's bad guys that say terrible things in movies, and we love to see them get their retribution by Act 3.
Indeed.
So it's always needed. We always need storytellers and soothsayers and magi in our tribes and our villages to kind of tell the tale of the hunt around the campfire, and I'm pretty sure that's my position in society. Just tell the tale of the hunt, and I always like to I love to be foolish. I think I know I'm a fool, and so I love comedy. I love comedy bits. So even within this R-rated thingy, I was very glad to have more of a comic relief role, and then
definitely
turn that butter a little bit more as we shot it.
So a quick question about Denham Elliott, because I've noticed two things that both in Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, but also in this movie, at a certain point in the third act of the movie, and I know that he liked to drink, so this is not a new thing, but in the third act of both movies, he's kind of being given whiskey in a flask, and I just wondered whether it was that because maybe he'd had a drink, or was that actually part of the script. I was just interested.
Well, we gave him mouthwash. I think we gave him some of the mouthwash in the basement.
Yes.
So a couple of notes on that. He is Brody. He's always going to be Brody.
Yes.
And I would like to pretend that he is in this movie.
Right.
I don't care what we call him, but he has a very similar speech as the third Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And the Indiana Jones, well, I know Sean Connery says the pen is mightier than the sword, but it's a very Brody-like speech in Toy Soldiers when he's talking to the kids in the quad. And he goes, ignore these guys around here, but this, and he holds up a book, and he goes, this, will be around long after these guys are gone.
Yeah.
So I think he's very Brody-like, and I'm just blown away, of course, by the Merchant Ivory type films he'd done, but forget on the set that he's in Indiana Jones. You just kind of forget. You go classic British actor. You're already your top A game, and there's a gag of him doing the drink, and I'm so happy to be involved in it. I don't have a lot of dialogue with him, but I get to be involved, and him doing a double take. Fantastic old school vaudeville style silent film. Big double take. And I was so pleased because that's me, my grandfather's kind of style of humor. So I just love that. Much respect. And Andrew Divoff would not let us get away with a take. He would cut if we weren't scared enough of him on screen. He goes, all right, I have to buy it, especially when I'm having like my asthma attack. He's standing over me and he goes, if I don't believe you, I will cut this scene.
Right.
So he never cut. And I triggered, they were showing dailies, and our producer's assistant, she is asthmatic, and she said she had to leave the screening, the dailies, because she had triggered an asthma attack.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
I know, terrible. She's like, it just gave her anxiety watching it, and I get it. I feel,
I was asthmatic growing up, so when I first saw the movie, I definitely knew what it felt like. Touch wood, it hasn't, as an adult, bothered me too much. But
I wrestled with whether Snuffy had ever had an asthma attack. I know that he says he has allergies, and the makeup artist, we put red eyeliner on my eyes throughout the movie so that it always looks like I had kind of like a snuffly thing going on.
Yeah.
And this I sneezed 27 times in the movie. I don't know. I think he uses an excuse to get out of physical activity or PE or anything. Oh, I'm sick. I can't.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he ever really has allergies he might, but I don't think he's ever had an So when he's having his asthma attack, I didn't feel the need for him to be totally accurate to an asthma attack.
No.
He's doing what he thinks an asthma attack is because he's always faked them every once in a while when he needed to get out of trouble.
Right. And who's the kind of person who's going to say to a kid, you're not really having an asthma attack, run out on the field. Everyone's going to try and at least be empathetic, one would hope. What was the chatter around the killing of Will Wheaton's character? Because obviously in most movies, even back then and now, you would probably cut away. You would understand it, but you would cut away. In this one, they make the point of really showing it. I don't mind that. I think it's part of the authenticity of the movie as even though, yes, it is a boy's own fantasy, but you know what I mean? It's part of the R rating. It's part of the authenticity of the movie. It's part of how they've set it up, especially with the opening, throwing someone out of a courthouse window. The movie starts that way. It needs to continue that way.
Yeah.
But what was the talk around that? Was there discussion about it? Was there, let's shoot it one way, let's shoot it another way? Or were you always gung-ho for that to be the way that it would end up on screen?
Oh, yeah, there was no debate on whether or not it was going to happen. I think I think about it now, and it's a great story point because the whole movie, the audience will question, why don't they just do this? Why don't they just, quickly take arms and take over the school? And it's not an anti-violent. It's not saying, oh, picking up guns, isn't right for the situation. It may be, but not without proper planning. And the whole point is Billy Tepper has to get the information out, give the Pentagon the time to organize an attack and all that other stuff. So it's a great subtle kind of way of saying, well, we've seen a little planning and then we can do this. And it shows stakes. In Indiana Jones, they quote unquote kill off Marion. You think she's gone when the truck explodes.
Yeah.
And here, it's sad. It's like Joey. And then you're like, well, we've now clearly entered the, third act. And Billy's had it. He's like, there's nothing to lose now. Joey's gone. Let's do this. Let's do the plan. And he agrees to send the information and send the signal and take over the school the next day.
Yeah, and it doesn't ever have that point of the kids suddenly, like you say, taking up arms and suddenly being Rambo. Like it's the kids are still kids. They are who they are, and they can do what they can do. They can plan, they can draw, they can run, they can, talk back, they can figure out science stuff, but they're not fighters, and they shouldn't be. I think if the movie had ended with all you guys like upping arms and taking over the school yourself, that would have been ridiculous and against the reality again of the movie. So I love that it's part of the story plot. I obviously don't like it that it happens, but
sure. It takes you couldn't have Billy Tepper pick up the gun and shoot Louis Galley. You had to have the dean do it. Lou Gossett takes one, and gives one, and a fantastic forehead shot, great makeup effects, and you couldn't have the kids actually do that.
No,
I don't think.
No, and it's
the
part
parents
of
are there. They're going to protect you. Yeah.
No, I was going to say it's part of the nuance of the script. If you you would have got into dangerous waters if you were like, and again, I'm not getting political, but if you could have got into dangerous waters, and anyone who looks at this movie is just being like, oh, it's a school shooting movie. It's not at all. Like, and that scene, I think, sells that it's not a school shooting movie.
Correct. It is a mentor movie. It's about Lou Gossett trying to mentor a troubled student, Billy Tepper, help him make better decisions. He shields him from any sort of prosecution with the alcohol.
Right.
He goes, all right, well, he kind of blackmails the local sheriff. He's like, well, your cousin's the one that sold it to him at the liquor store. And he shields him, but he goes, that doesn't mean you're free of repercussions. You're now under my wing, and you've got to do pots and pans, and,
pots and pans, man.
And so it's personal. It's that all government is local, and it takes mentorship. It takes good community leadership and, a good dean. I think that's, he's such a hero. Lou personally was a hero on the set because he gave it no less than officer and a gentleman focus. Regardless if the paycheck is bigger or smaller, it didn't matter what set he's on. He's going to give his A game. And it was a great lesson to reaffirm to me and Sean and Will. And it was a great lesson for Sean Phelan and George and TE to see that and to see that demonstrated on set. You're like, dang, he brings it no matter whether it's a R-rated, popcorn movie for kids. I don't know. We cut our audience out by making it R-rated, and it made its money back. That was it. It was like 20 mil, something like that.
But I think that I love that it is played seriously within its own setup. It's not. I think very often if you play an escapist movie in a way that it doesn't matter, it ceases to be a good movie. If everyone on set is just like, this doesn't matter, it's a popcorn movie, let's just do whatever, that doesn't make a good movie. What makes a good movie is buying into the whatever the setup is. And
the premise is right there on the poster.
Yeah.
Years of bad behavior are about to pay off.
Right.
And that moment in the tent when Lou Gossett goes, well, no, you don't know these students. I know them, and I know what they'll do.
Right.
It's a great moment because the audience realizes what's been a detriment for their characters and their fatal flaw is about to be turned into the asset that's going to win the picture and the situation. Yeah. And as soon as the parents kind of get on board and support the kids in this and go, actually, if we listen to our kids a little bit, we could do this.
Yeah.
It's a great moment because now the audience goes, ooh, I know what the plan is. Let's see if they pull it off. And we've raised the stakes. We've killed Joey. It's very well structured. And, frankly, Dan Petrie Jr. being a script doctor, dialogue doctor, dialogue editor, structure, story specialist. He knows exactly where, and it gives freedom.
Yeah.
He'd originally written Beverly Hills Cop for Sylvester Stallone, and was given just a few weeks to redo it for Eddie Murphy. And he knew that even if they improv for 2 minutes in this scene, story-wise or structurally, it still works.
Yes.
No matter what happens in this scene. And he just hit all of those great signposts in a popcorn action movie. It has all the sentiments of the 90s right there on its sleeves. And it really is a hard R 80s type picture, totally honoring Die Hard.
Yeah.
Favorite is the shoulder arm missile that hits the police car. They fire it from the bell tower to warn off the local police. Like, yeah, now we're making an action picture. That was the first thing they blew up on set.
Nice.
To have continuity so that car was always there in the rest of the shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were joking around, as I said, online a little bit, and we've talked about it today, about this idea of a sequel, which by the way, I love, and I would happily sit with you and talk about it forever. But is there any actual, real conversations? Have any serious discussions ever taken place about something like this?
I've seen a press release that Sony TriStar intends to redo it with Queen Latifah as the headmistress. Okay. This is all I've heard, and based on that, I surmised a story that would really work with that.
Yes.
But they're going to have absolutely their own take on it. It could be a complete redo, or they don't need to connect it. And it's time to, absolutely tell the girls' side of the story. Definitely. They're going to solve the problem maybe a little differently than the boys.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, it's funny. I'm a big fan of action movies from the 80s and 90s, and there are female-driven action movies of the 80s and 90s, but they're few and far between, sadly. And for whatever reason, Hollywood was just not ready to necessarily do a lot of female-centric action back then. And that's the saddest one. But
yeah, they always tended to be victimized quickly, like Point of No Return, The Professional. You had to victimize the female lead before they turned into an empowered lead. They tried an empowered lead with Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider, but it seemed like they didn't like her starting point. They wanted to see her more climb to attain that kind of power position. It's dramatic structure, rags to riches kind of a thing, and you want to see a low power character become enabled and become a high power character. But then the argument could be that Indiana Jones doesn't change much. He's already a pretty high powered character, has all his skills at the beginning. Maybe he learns a little humility by the end and learns to believe in something beyond just what he can dig up. We don't question any of that stuff with toy soldiers. It's just as long as they keep it fun, popcorn. There are certain things that they're not going to have terrorists cross the U.S. border, killing Border Patrol to get up to the school and then take children hostage. That trope isn't really allowed. We don't do that. We don't take kids hostage anymore in film. I think James Cameron was already commenting on it with True Lies when he hung Eliza Dushku off of a F-16.
Yeah.
That was a tongue-in-cheek thing saying, hey, remember when this is actually shocking and you guys politically correct changed it so that we don't do this anymore? It got bad in the 80s. It had latchkey children, Reaganomics, so both parents were working and the kids were up to their own adventures after school until the parents got home. So they're riding their bikes in the woods and having fun. And so you got things like E.T. and Stand By Me, Babysitting and Goonies, where the parents aren't really around. And we changed that in the 90s. Now we're starting to put leashes on kids and not letting them walk to school anymore. Reports of 14-year-olds getting busted in the subway in New York on their way to school because there's no parents with them. It's like I was able to walk to school at 8. When did that change? And it changed on screen. So it'll be interesting to see their new take on toy soldiers. I would love to see it.
Yeah, me too, definitely. And has there been any talk of either a special edition Blu-ray or a reunion for the 30th anniversary, which is this year, believe it or not?
Have I seen No, and I am absolutely going to celebrate the 30 year for Toy Soldiers this year. Did it come out in October? When did it come out?
October, yes. It came out October of 91, yeah.
Fantastic. So, 30 year, we'll have to do a Zoom with Will and Sean and George and TE and all the gang, and tell our stories from the set,
Yeah. So I've actually reached out. I contacted all of their reps that I could find, and I reached out to them on Twitter and will continue to do so, because I thought that if there isn't anything official, we could at least have some really great interviews we could put together into something. And I think we've had a great conversation about it, but lovely to get everyone's point of view if that's even possible.
I did it. I loved it. Totally had fun. And, you can use my name when asking for sure. I don't know if that'll help, but no, we're all still very good friends.
Well, that's awesome, Keith. And thank you so much for chatting Toy Soldiers with me today. I don't know if there's anything that distinguishes Toy Soldier fans from your Adventures in Babysitting or Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead fans, because I think we probably cross over. I love those movies too, but Toy Soldiers for me, it's just one of those. And I love to celebrate the ones that maybe the fans would want a reunion, but maybe people aren't clamoring for it in the way that they would clamor for like Cobra Kai or whatever. But I would watch a Toy Soldiers TV show. You know what I mean?
That's great. I love to hear that. I know that I had a total blast doing it, and I'm glad it lives on. The full frame version that is available on DVD, there may have been a Blu-ray, maybe internationally released. Don't be put off by it. It's a great picture quality. It's got some great grain on it. And it says it's in like 4:3 Academy ratio, which is full frame. And you go, well, wait a second, where's the like 1:8:5 or the regular widescreen version? And I'll tell you that nothing is missing from the picture in the full frame. They've actually opened the mag box. We shot it on Super 35, and they would mat it for projection. So the print actually includes room above and below the frame. So left and right, nothing's cut off on this full frame version of the DVD or the Blu-ray that's out now. What is extra is exposed, leaving tape marks on the floor for the actors' feet and boom mics visible in the top. So you never saw that when the film was broadcast on TV. Well, yeah. You might have on the older regular square TVs. But in the theaters, you never saw it. But in the home version, you will spot a few mistakes like that because they've actually opened up the frame. So I encourage people to get that version and watch it.
Yeah, I have
little things.
I have the 4:3 DVD. I have that one, but I actually watched it this time on Vudu, and the Vudu was a lovely, crisp. I mean, it wasn't widescreen with like the black bars or whatever, but it was widescreen. It filled my 60-inch screen and was lovely and crisp and so on. And I think the Blu-ray that was released, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, by Warner Brothers. I think that was widescreen, eventually 185.
I think you're right too, and that also was a beautiful picture.
But yeah, it needs a special edition. And like I say, if anyone's out there asking for fans who want to do any behind the scenes stuff, I'm readily available.
They had a screening. They had a screening for a print at Sony because they had rescanned it to 4K and redid the sound.
Oh wow!
Sony Dynamic Sound, and they have a group of theaters under the Irving Thalberg building, small 20, 30 seat screening rooms, and it just looked and sounded fantastic, like it was shot today.
Yeah.
Shot by Tim Burston, who I also worked with on The Cheetah in Africa. And he is a miracle worker with an Airflex, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no, the movie looked like $1 million when I watched it. I thought it was fantastic. And I just think it's just a very, very well-made, well-acted, fun as all hell movie that I think is it's acted completely correctly and just has a great cast and is escapist and boy's own and everything we've talked about today, but And I agree with you. It could certainly do with a feminine presence, but at least the cast is diverse in terms of the group of kids is a diverse group of kids, and you've got Louis Gossett Jr. and Denham Elliott and Andrew Devoff, all from different, a diverse cast there. So, and even a little bit of message, like we talked about with, believe your kids and trust your kids a little bit. And, so I don't know. I think it's got a bit of everything for everybody, and I'm going to keep championing it throughout this year. So thanks ever so much, Keith. Happy 30th anniversary. Happy birthday for next week. And
thank you.
All the very best to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the time, John. You have a good one, and stay well.
So that was my interview with Keith Coogan, which was absolutely fantastic. We really got into every nook and cranny of Toy Soldiers there and enjoyed it immensely. Like I said at the beginning, we are also covering the film, doing a review of it and a conversation around the subject matter of the movie on our main podcast, the After Movie Diner podcast. So please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, like, comment, retweet, share, tell your friends, all that good stuff about the After Movie Diner, about aftermoviediner.com, and about Booth Talk, the interview show from the After Movie Diner. So thanks again to our guest Keith Coogan, and we will be back next time with the Gutenberg. Look forward to that.